I spent 36 years in the United States. I served 8 years in the U.S. Army, including Iraq. I paid over $187,000 in taxes. I have 5 American grandchildren who call me Grandpa, and they deported me over a $340 traffic fine. Let me tell you what it feels like when the country you fought for decides you don't belong. But let me start at the beginning. I grew up in San Juan Bautista, Tuxtepec, Oaxaca, a small town where the river runs green and the mornings smell like wood smoke and wet earth. My father built our house with adobe bricks, one layer at a time. I watched him do it. I learned from watching him that a man builds things. That's what a man does. He builds. I was 26 when the sawmill closed. Consuelo and I had 2 kids. She was pregnant again. Neither of us knew it yet. A friend of mine, Macedonio Rios, had sent a letter from Fresno, California. He said there was work and construction. The letter arrived on a Thursday. Monday morning, I was at the bus terminal. My mother came to see me off, 4 a.m, Terminal de Onibus, Tuxtepec. She didn't say much. My mother was never a woman of many words. She just took my face in her hands, both hands, and she held it there, 1 full minute without speaking. When she let go, her fingers had left marks on my cheeks. I didn't look back when the bus pulled away. I couldn't. Consuelo had held my arm the night before and said, "Dos años, in 2 years you come back, or we come to you." Neither of those things happened the way we planned. The trip to the border took 5 days. Bus to Mexico City, then north toward Tijuana. I paid a coyote called El Cuervo, I never knew his real name, $1,800 borrowed from Consuelo's father. That debt took 3 years to pay back. There were 11 of us in the group. We crossed the desert at Otay on foot, 14 hours. Around 3 a.m, a woman collapsed, 40 years old maybe. She'd been walking without water for too long. El Cuervo stopped and looked at her on the ground and said, "Déjenla, ya no podemos." Leave her. We can't. Macedonio and I looked at each other. We didn't say anything. I put her on my back. We took turns carrying her for 4 hours until we reached the pickup point. When we helped her through a section of barbed wire fence, the wire opened my right forearm. You can still see the scar if you look. I never knew her name. I still think about her sometimes. I wonder if she made it. I made it into the United States in September of 1983. First night I slept in a 2-room apartment on Belmont Street in Fresno. 8 men in that space, $60 a month my share. 3 days after arriving, I was in the fields in Reedley picking grapes, $3.10 an hour. My hands were bleeding by the second day. I didn't stop. That's when everything started to change, slowly. The way things that last always change slowly. In 1986, the government passed an amnesty. I got a legitimate green card. And in 1988, look, this is the part people don't know. A U.S. Army recruiter came to the factory where I was working in Stockton. He said, "Green card holders can serve. 3 years honorable service, you can apply for citizenship. We take care of our own." I signed. First day at Fort Ord, the sergeant read down his list and stopped at my name. "Fuentes. You're not a citizen." I said, "Not yet, Sergeant." He looked at me for 3 seconds. Then he said, "Fair enough. Fall in." That was the first time I felt like I belonged to something in this country. Something real. I served 8 years, the 7th Infantry Division, combat engineering, building and demolishing structures. I went to Panama in 1989. I went to Iraq in 1991 for Desert Storm. And after September 11, I re-enlisted because, I mean, how do I explain this? This was my country. My kids were here. My life was here. When that happened, I didn't think twice. In 2004, in Fallujah, a fragment of shrapnel hit my left temple and went into my knee. The one in my knee they never fully removed. On cold days, I still feel it. They gave me the Purple Heart. It's in a shoebox under my bed in Oaxaca right now. I never threw it away. I'm not sure I could. And the citizenship? Every time I tried to process it, something went wrong. A wrong form, a missed deadline, an office that couldn't find the file. I wasn't good with paperwork. I always thought, there's time, I'll get it done. There's always something more urgent. That thought, that thought cost me everything. I left the Army in 1996 as a staff sergeant, went back to construction in Stockton. Meridian Pacific Construction, 1847 West Hammer Lane. I stayed there for 23 years. 23 years. Same company, same boss, Reg Okafor, Nigerian-American, second generation, civil engineer. He used to say, "Bernal, you're the only one I trust to get it done right." I supervised teams of 8 to 14 men, most of them Mexican, Guatemalan. I translated between the engineers and the workers. I was the bridge. My salary when they took me was $28.50 an hour. About $4,500 a month take home. Over 33 years of legal work, I paid approximately $187,000 in taxes. Federal, state, local. I never used Medicaid. Never used food stamps. Not once. And in Stockton, I built a life. My son Marco had been born in Tuxtepec while I was already in Fresno. I found out by telegram that Macedonio helped send. Diana came 3 months after I arrived. And then in 1991, in Stockton, my youngest, Jessie, was born. An American by birth. Consuelo called me from the hospital payphone. I was at Fort Lewis, Washington. She said, "It's a boy. He was born here. He's American." I walked out to the parking lot at 2 in the morning, sat on the hood of my car, looked up at the sky for an hour without moving. I didn't cry, I needed to feel it, the size of it. By 2018, Marco was working at PG&E in Modesto. Diana was in Los Angeles. Jessie was a firefighter in Sacramento. My son saves lives for a living. And I had 5 grandchildren: Tyler, Kayla, Sophia, Mateo, Isabella. 5 American kids who called me Grandpa, who ran to me at Christmas, who fell asleep on my shoulder watching whatever was on TV. My best memory of that house on North California Street? Christmas of 2016. Everyone came. People sleeping on the sofa, on the floor, on the back porch. I stayed awake until 3 in the morning, just listening to the sound of everyone breathing, everyone sleeping around me. I thought, I made it. This is what it was all for. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you about something that happened before all that fell apart. 2016. We were on the job site in Stockton. A new building inspector came for a walkthrough. Young guy, 28 years old, fresh out of school. I was explaining the concrete column process to him and to the project engineer. The inspector looked at me, then turned to the younger white engineer standing next to me and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Does he speak English?" The whole site went quiet. My guys were watching. Aurelio stopped what he was doing. I answered him directly, in English, using the technical structural engineering terminology I'd learned over 23 years on the job. The exact load specifications, the compressive strength ratings, everything. The inspector's face went red. The other guys on site looked at the ground. I finished my explanation and went back to work. I didn't say another word about it. But here's the thing, and I need you to understand this. I was careful after that, even more careful. I kept my head down. I didn't make waves, because men like me learn very quickly that you can be right and still lose. You can be right and still lose. That fear, pues, it made me delay things I shouldn't have delayed. February 7th, 2019, Thursday morning, 7:12 a.m. I had just parked in the lot at Meridian Pacific. I was talking to Aurelio. We were discussing a material delivery that was running late. I had a cup of coffee in my hand. I remember it was still hot. I'd stopped at the gas station on Hammer Lane like I did every morning. A black SUV pulled across the entrance to the parking lot. 2 ICE agents in uniform got out. A Stockton police car was behind them. One agent walked straight toward me. He said, "Are you Ernesto Guadalupe Fuentes Bernal?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Sir, we have a warrant for your arrest related to an immigration matter." I said, "Can I call my son?" He said I could call from the detention center. My hands went cold. Even holding that hot coffee, my hands went cold. I don't know how that happens, but it does. I let go of the cup. I didn't mean to, it just fell. The plastic lid hit the asphalt and the coffee spread out in an arc across the gray concrete. I stood there looking at it for 2 seconds. Aurelio was frozen behind me. 19 years we'd worked together. He was holding his lunch bag and he couldn't speak. Jimmy Kowalski pulled into the lot at that exact moment, saw what was happening, and sat in his car without getting out. The agent was waiting. I raised my wrists. When the handcuffs closed, I heard a sentence in my head. Something my drill sergeant said on my first day at Fort Ord in 1988. He said it like it was simple, like it was obvious. Take care of this country, and this country will take care of you. Standing there in that parking lot, hands cuffed, coffee still spreading across the asphalt, I didn't feel angry. That's the thing nobody understands. I didn't feel angry. I felt something worse. I felt like I had believed it. I had really, truly believed it. The reason for the warrant? In 2008, I'd gotten a ticket for driving with an expired license, $340 fine. I mailed the check to the wrong address. The check never arrived. The fine became a warrant. The warrant sat in a system for 11 years without anyone notifying me. In 2018, the government started reviewing green cards of anyone with any open matter, any matter at all. They found the warrant. They also found an inconsistency in my green card renewal from 2005, a signature in the wrong field, something nobody caught at the time. No violence, no crime, no drugs. A clerical error on a $340 fine. I spent 35 days at Mesa Verde Ice Processing Center in Bakersfield. 8 men to a cell, 14 in our block. Fluorescent lights on 24 hours. Phone calls cost $1.25 a minute, charged to my children. Reg Okafor paid $3,000 out of his own pocket for an immigration attorney. The attorney filed an appeal. The appeal was denied in 26 days. Marco and Diana came twice. Consuelo came once. Jesse was on shift. He tried to make the second visit, but I'd already been transferred. The last time I saw my family face to face was in that visitation room at Mesa Verde. Glass between us. Marco on one side, not able to say a word when I told him, "Tell Jesse it's okay. Tell him I'm not mad." Diana kept saying, "Papa, we're going to bring you back." I smiled at her. She knew I didn't believe it. Consuelo pressed her hand against the glass. I pressed mine against the other side. We stayed like that for 2 minutes without speaking. There's nothing to say in a moment like that. 2 minutes of glass. The last image I have is Diana's face, her hand open against the glass, trying to smile and crying at the same time. Kayla was 9 years old. She was in the waiting area outside because she was too young to enter the visitation room. I never saw her that day. Can you imagine that? Your granddaughter is 20 feet away and there's a rule that says you can't see her. What would you do with that? I flew out of Bakersfield on March 14th, 2019 on an ICE charter flight. Handcuffs removed inside the plane after takeoff. 34 other deportees. Nobody talked much. The man next to me cried silently for almost 2 hours. I looked out the window. I had 1 bag, 3 shirts, 2 pairs of pants, my military documents, the Purple Heart, the Casio watch that Marco gave me in 2003 before my last deployment, and $340 in cash, exactly the amount of the fine that Consuelo had given to an agent to give to me. $340. I've thought about that a lot. It's been 5 years and 11 months. I live in a rented room in my brother Aurelio's house in Oaxaca. Aurelio, whose college education I paid for from Stockton. He doesn't want me to pay rent. I pay $80 a month anyway. I can't not. A man pays his way. I work construction when there's work, 300 to 500 pesos a day, maybe $200 a month in good months. In Stockton, I made 4,500. Every morning I wake up at 5:30 because my body doesn't know how to sleep in anymore. I make coffee, I check WhatsApp. Sometimes Tyler, he's 14 now, sends me memes in English that I don't understand. I always send back a heart emoji. Marco calls every Sunday at 6 his time. Sometimes we talk for 3 hours. Sometimes one of us has to hang up before we start to fall apart. Diana sends me videos of Mateo and Isabella. She's the only one who still goes back and forth between Spanish and English mid-sentence, natural, the way we used to talk in the kitchen in Stockton. Jesse calls on my birthday and at Christmas. There's always a silence at the end before he hangs up. I know what that silence is. He thinks he should have done more. I want to tell him, "Mijo, there was nothing to do." But I don't say it because I don't want him to think I believe it. Lily, Jesse's daughter, is 7 years old. I have never met her. Consuelo found the photo on Jesse's Instagram and sent it to me. I had it printed at a shop here in Oaxaca. She has my eyes. I keep the photo inside my Bible. Do you know what it's like to have a granddaughter who has your eyes and not know the sound of her voice? There's a group, Deported Veterans Support House in Tijuana, that's been working on my case since 2021, petitioning for humanitarian return. It's still in process. Marco and Diana have paid $4,800 so far. I don't know what's going to happen. I've stopped trying to know. Here's what I know. I entered this country as a 26-year-old from Tuxtepec with 1,800 borrowed dollars and nowhere to sleep. I worked the fields in Fresno. I built houses in Stockton. I helped construct the emergency wing of St. Joseph's Medical Center. That building is still standing. Someone was born in there. Someone survived in there. I put up those walls. I put on a uniform. I went to Panama. I went to Iraq. I came back with a piece of metal in my knee that still hurts when it rains. I raised 3 children who are Americans, teachers, engineers, firefighters, administrators. I have five American grandchildren. and I was deported over a $340 fine that I tried to pay. My drill sergeant said on my first day of Fort Ord in 1988, "Take care of this country, and this country will take care of you." I understand now what that sentence really is. It's not a promise. It was never a promise. It was a condition. And conditions have fine print, and sometimes the fine print is a signature in the wrong field on a form from 2005, and sometimes it's a check that went to the wrong address in 2008. I held up my end. I held it up for 36 years. I'm not asking for pity. I have too much pride for that, and too many years behind me to waste on it. What I'm asking is for you to understand something. Every building you walk into, every hospital, every school, every road, someone built that. And a lot of those someones look like me. We built things that are still standing after we were gone. My name is Ernesto Guadalupe Fuentes Bernal. I'm 67 years old. I'm from San Juan Bautista, Tuxtepec, Oaxaca. I spent 36 years in the United States. I have a Purple Heart in a shoebox under my bed. And I have 5 grandchildren I'm missing growing up. If this story stayed with you, share it. The algorithm doesn't know the story exists unless you tell it. Share it for Lily, who is 7 and has never met her grandfather. Share it for Tyler, who sends me memes I don't understand, but I always answer. And tell me, did you know that veterans of the United States military can be deported? Did you know that? Because I'm asking. I need to know if the people this country says it honors actually know what's happening to us.